Okay, this is a hard video for me to record. Actually, all the videos I have planned from now until forever are a little bit difficult for me to record. Hopefully, I get better at them as we keep going. They're very vulnerable. They're going to touch on a subject that I think is very, very crucial and that is rarely, hardly ever spoken about, especially in our corporate careers and our professional world, but that I think is one of the biggest things that pushes or moves the lever when it comes to moving your career forward in leadership in whatever space, honestly. But me, I like talking about leadership and moving into project management, leadership, any kind of, moving your career up the quote unquote ladder. Anyways, we talk a lot about professional development, especially in this channel, right? I like to talk about how to become a project manager, how to go from contributor to a leader, even when you don't have the title yet. It's really all about professional development and what are those practical skills, those leadership skills that we can all learn to move our career forward. But at least in my experience, no one talks about the personal wounds that hold us back. No one really touches or talks about those personal wounds that kind of shape how we show up at work. That is really one thing that I'm so incredibly passionate about, that I want and I talk about a lot in the personal world with my mentees and people that I have gotten close to and helped them through their professional development. It's not really something that I bring up a lot with colleagues or, direct reports that are just a direct corporate report, but it is something that I talk about a lot with people who have become close, where we've crossed that boundary to almost like friendship boundary, where we can talk about real stuff. Because obviously HR would not be happy if we kind of had those conversations with the people that are our direct reports. However, every single time that I create a strong relationship with someone who's trying to develop their professional world or their professional career, we always touch on the personal, the insecurities, the lack of confidence, the traumas, the survival mode, the things that make us who we are as people and that unfortunately show up in our professional world. So, unless you're doing a balance of like, okay, let me go to therapy, let me figure out what is the professional tactics that I need to do to become very comfortable in a leadership space to go after those roles, yada, 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 you don't really get to talk about this stuff. For me, it was very clear that I had to do a lot of personal healing, personal, very deep inner work before. Actually, let me take that back. It wasn't clear. It was clear to me as a person that I needed to do all these deep personal work to help me in my personal life move forward, deal with a lot of traumas, get out of the survival mode, things like that. Like physically get my body out of survival mode. Because I was still, oh shoot, that was a terrible idea. Don't put your candles there. Oh no. Hopefully it didn't ruin the paint. I can smell it though, so it definitely ruined the paint. My dad built me this bookcase, and it's my favorite thing in my house. So I'd be really sad if I ruined that. Where was I? Oh, yes. So for me, it was very clear that I needed to do a lot of deep personal, deep internal work to get myself out of that survival mode. I mean, even my body had to get out of survival mode. I couldn't sleep without having the TV on with Friends in the background or one of my comfort shows. And it was very, very much me being unable to sit with myself. However, I did not realize that by doing that personal work, doing that internal work, I didn't realize how much it was going to translate into my professional career. That year that I kind of just went, I need to go to therapy. I need to go to figure out how to fix my brain, how to, forgive, how to find self-esteem, how to heal those wounds, was the year that my career just skyrocketed. And I got those leadership positions that I never thought I'd be able to get. And now when I think about it, I'm like, why didn't I think that I could get those roles? Like it was such a, manageable, real goal that was very, very much possible. But back then, it just seems out of reach completely. It also was a year that my salary just completely transformed my life. And it put me not just in that, I don't know if you guys have been watching TikTok, it's probably very much catered to me, but that 3% of Latinas making the six figure, it didn't put me just in that 3%. It put me in the top 1%, which thank you life, thank you mom, thank you dad, thank you world, for universe, I'm so grateful. And never in my life would I have thought that I would get to a space where I felt so much gratitude, so much inspiration and thankful for my life, especially when I resented my life so much before. Anyways, so that's my idea. I really want to share this part of my journey and what it is that it means to heal those personal wounds and how they essentially transform your career. I want to build that bridge between the personal and how we show up in our professional world, and how when we are able to work on the personal, it just like automatically transform your professional world. You go from, let me learn those leadership skills, let me understand how to communicate, to embodying someone who knows they can be a leader and who feels comfortable being a leader, and who not only feels comfortable being a leader, but feels comfortable not being a leader. I'll get into that. It has a lot to do with feeling or tying your self-worth to your productivity and all of that. Anyways, so here's what I've understood out of how I created this career of mine, or the successful STEM career of mine, because I am a Latina in a male-dominated industry, in a STEM industry. Here's what I understand about how I achieved it. Sorry, I need to have my notes, otherwise I won't say or forget some points that I want to tell you guys. Anyways, it was 4% my fancy college degree. It was 6% technical, like the actual technical work coming from a book. It was maybe 10% experience, the amount of experience that I had. Where does that put us? At 20%? 30% communication and leadership skills, those strong communication, soft leadership skills that we really like overlook when we're in a STEM career. But 50% of that, 50% of me being able to succeed the way that I've been able to in my career came from that internal work that I did 1 year. I swear, I spent 9 years of my career just kind of bouncing around, having this ambition, wanting these things, but never truly being able to get them. Not because, I wasn't learning the technical, I wasn't learning the communication and all that, because I had kind of the raw talent behind it, but because all of this personal healing that I had to do was holding me back. How is it possible that in 10 years, I couldn't get to where I wanted to be, but in 1 year, after working on all of that, plus compounding obviously a lot of work that I did in the 10 years, got me there? Again, because all of that internal work, the self-worth, the confidence, I don't know what else it would be. It seems so much of the woo-woo stuff, the stuff that in my 20s, I just rolled my eyes and I just thought, you know what, put your head down and work and you'll get what you want. All of that really exuded in my career. And I just really started embodying the person that I was already, but without the shame and without the fear, and embracing mistakes, embracing failures as part of the feedback loop, as part of, yes, this is how we get better, not as part of my identity. If I failed, then I failed as a person. That was no longer part of my thought process. And then I used to be such an angry person in my 20s. Everything triggered me. Things literally stopped triggering me. My emotional intelligence became higher. I understood why people would get mad. So I was to the point where Yeah, they were rude, but I understand their insecurity and why they're insecure, and so therefore why they're rude. So now I just feel bad for them. Such few things triggered me. And all of this led to me even being offered leadership positions where I started to say no to because they weren't the direction that I wanted to take my career. Or maybe I wanted to slow down a little bit, but I, the opportunities just kept coming, even without me trying so hard. So, where did all that shame and fear come from? Why was I so constantly living in the survival mode, even when I was no longer needing to survive? I was in a better place in the world. I was still working off of that survival mode. It came from the fact that I was an immigrant. It came from the fact that I was raised in a community where I was really the only one. I was the small Latina who was also taught to not take up space because that space wasn't meant for me. It was meant for them. And so anything that I took, I kind of had to apologize for taking from them because it wasn't meant for me. Because maybe it wasn't that I didn't deserve it, it just wasn't where I belonged. So, shrunk myself a lot. It came from a place of being raised by an alcoholic, came from a place of being raised through poverty. I mean, I literally would have to go and buy the $1 loaf of bread that was on clearance so that my stomach wouldn't growl while I was at school or while I was taking the midterm. But, a lot of really amazing things also came from my upbringing. I mean, my mom and my dad were so focused on ensuring that we went to college and that we had a better life than they did, that they crossed borders to make sure that that happened. Yeah, it came with a lot of them learning how to raise us and a lot of hiccups on their side. But at the end of the day, such resilience from them that I learned that, I didn't get to recognize and I didn't get to be grateful for till way later on because I was so focused on the survival side of things. So, I mean, all of this really kind of messes with a young person's mind and it makes them, it forms their identity, the constant shame, the constant apologizing for just existing. And when you grow up and when you're trying to be successful and when you're trying to move forward with your life, it's so much that you have to unlearn. So here's the way that my trauma showed up for me at work. First off, extreme people pleasing. Oh my goodness. I had to please everyone. I had to make sure everyone was happy and I had to work double time to ensure that every single person had what they needed from me. And also that I was liked. That honestly probably came from thinking that I was taking up someone's space. So I had to constantly apologize for myself. So if I made sure that I was doing everything possible to please people, then hopefully they would be okay with me taking up a little bit of space. How awful is that? It's so weird saying this out loud. It took a long time to realize that I deserved the space, that I needed to take up space, and that no one was the person to tell me that it's okay to take up space. Like, there's no one to tell me, it's fine, Carla, you take up space, go ahead. Like, no one needed to give me permission to take up space. I just needed to do it for myself. As soon as I really embodied my self-worth, I understood that very well. And little by little, I stopped people pleasing and I stopped overworking myself in order to ensure that everyone was happy. It got to the point where I followed my values and I followed my boundaries and I worked really well with people, but it was no longer, yes, thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much for doing this, blah, 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 blah. I'm still very grateful because that's just my personality, but I don't go out of my way to people please. Second way that it showed up for me, which I kind of already mentioned, overworking. There's this thing that I'm very proud of. No one can outwork me. Very proud of it. It's a very cool thing to know that, I have a lot of resilience, that my brain has helped me through so much double time work, like working 20 hours a day, sometimes more than 20 hours a day, which is awesome. Like, it's a very cool thing to do. But the way that I did it was because I needed to make sure that I was doing more than everyone else. Because I also was afraid that the value that I was providing wasn't enough. So, me working from 8 to 5 was not the same value as anyone else working from 8 to 5. My value was a lot less, so I needed to make up for it. And in order to do that, I had to work that double time, or I had to put in all those efforts. Me setting boundaries, saying, sorry, this week I cannot work past 5, was me failing, basically. And failing, honestly, to please whatever was going on. I understand when there's times that there's submittals and things like that where you're going to have to work overtime. That's just it, right? But I tied my value so much to my productivity and to me being able to deliver a lot more than everyone else. I mean, why was I doing this? I could have let go of one project and done so much better just by focusing on the handful of projects that I had instead of, having to be involved in every single project. Why did I do that? Still working through that. Third way that my trauma really showed up at my professional world is by being terrified. So much fear of speaking up and using my voice. I cannot explain how terrified I was of speaking in a meeting, of saying anything on the phone when we were having more than a 2-person conversation with anyone, of interjecting my opinion, even that. I was so scared. And I mean, my hands would shake. I would hide them under the table because my hands were shaking so much. And a lot of that I attributed to being young, to thinking like, okay, one day when I am competent and I know what I'm saying, I won't have to be so scared. It'll be okay. But that wasn't what was going on. What was going on is that I was afraid of my own voice, that anything that I had to say wasn't valuable or was stupid or was a mistake. And guess what? When you're young, yeah, there's going to be times where what you say is maybe not valuable. But just because, it was a mistake or whatever you said was a mistake doesn't mean that you speaking up or that there isn't space for you to speak up and communicate and state your opinion. You speaking up should just be a given. Obviously, you get better as you have more experience in what you're saying. But the point is that you should be able to use your voice without shrinking it, without thinking, I shouldn't talk or I shouldn't say anything because they'll notice that I'm here and what I have to say isn't really that important. My question is a stupid question. Turns out 80% of the time, the question I had, everyone had. Oh my gosh, the next one. Needing constant validation. I could not send an email without running it by my supervisor or my colleague. I mean, I still do this sometimes when there's an important message that I want to make sure comes across and I want someone's opinion. But it kind of froze me. It really held me back when it came to being able to make my own decisions. I couldn't make a decision on my own. I needed someone's input. I struggled a lot with just thinking that what I had to say or what I put on paper or even given permission to use a specific program, I needed someone's input always, constantly. And I thought there was always a right answer for some reason. I thought there was always a right answer and I didn't know it and I needed someone to validate it. Constant validation. To this day, I still find myself struggling with this a little bit, especially when I get into rooms that are even higher, even more strategic, even, dealing with the COO of some program, things like that. I struggle a lot with validating myself. I know that I've had supervisors or mentors who go, yeah, Carla, you know what you're doing. Stop asking me. And it's definitely a feedback I've gotten before. But That constant validation definitely came from needing the permission to exist. Last one, for me at least, avoiding conflict. I hate conflict. I grew up in a very conflict-filled home. So conflict to me is something that makes my body go straight into survival mode. It's not a, hey, let's have a discussion about how to figure this out, how to move forward, what's the right decision. I know you and I disagree, which I wish it was. But even to this day, anytime there's some sort of conflict, I have to lower the volume on my headset so that I can join the conversation, because that survival mode, that shakiness within me, that feeling like I'm not safe, automatically takes hold of me. So obviously, I avoided conflicts for a very, very long time at work. And if you're in leadership, you should know that it's not really something you can avoid. Conflict is going to be everywhere, all the time, with colleagues, with clients, with partners, agencies. It's just unavoidable. But having the tools and knowing how to manage conflict can really help with that. For me, though, it was more than that. For me to be able to sit in a space of discomfort and conflict, I started to have to separate me, my identity, my worth, again, that self-worth thing always popping up, from what we were doing. So if we are arguing about some technical aspect, let us all listen to each other. Why are we yelling? There's no need to yell. Sometimes I actually say that out loud. Let's just talk about through it. We disagree clearly. Or when it comes to giving critical feedback and a person is defensive, sitting in that discomfort, again, came a lot from having to feel safe within myself. Why do I feel like I need to go into the survival mode? Why am I feeling discomfort? Obviously, it's not a comfortable situation, but I'm safe. Nothing's going to happen here. So let's just talk through this. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of internal work. Anyways, those are the ways that they show up for me. But there's so many other ways that they show up for other people, like perfectionism. I'm not a perfectionist, thank God, because I don't think I could deal with one more thing. But perfectionism really holds people back a lot of the time. They're afraid to make mistakes. They're afraid to not submit or not be perfect, not have it completely thought out because of the way that they move through the world, because of their unhealed trauma or their personal wounds that are showing up in their professional world. Any tiny, tiny mistake is a failure, part of their character, part of their identity, versus being able to disassociate their identity from their work. Which brings me to the next one, associating your value to your level of productivity. That constant attachment of your self-worth to look at how quickly I can produce a plan set, look at how good I am at creating an technical report, an estimate, whatever it is. Your identity. Oh, another one. Look at how highly I should be valued, or my worth is so high because of all of the degrees that I have. It's possible that your identity is heavily, heavily tied to your productivity, your degrees, your how good you are at doing anything, versus your self-worth just being tied to who you are as a person, that you are worthy because you are you. You are human. You are wonderful. You are kind. You're empathetic. That is what makes you an incredible person. I think I had that one too, probably at some point, because I definitely tied my identity to my productivity. All right. That's it. I'm done here. Trying really hard to talk to the camera with just bullet points. So if I rambled and I paused a little too much, I'm sorry, but I hope you like this video, and let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the direction of where I'm thinking of taking this channel. I love you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.